Hello and welcome to Jeff Tomchik's Week 4 presentation in Design Tools class. For this presentation, I decided to take a look back on World War II and answer the question, despite Germany's success at the beginning of the war, what reasons led to the country's failure in World War II? For my thesis for this discussion, I decided that it was actually Hitler's arrogance that led to his downfall. It allowed him to underestimate his opponents, bite off more than he could handle, and expand his empire too quickly for him to be able to control. Now this is actually a map of what Hitler intended to do with his army. As you can see, he kind of expected to just march across the world and conquer whatever he came across, but history tells us of it happening a little bit different, and I kind of want to just look at what events led to the Nazi Empire's downfall. So the first act of arrogance was Hitler's decision to invade Russia. Now Russia before the invasion was actually a powerful ally to the Germans, but Hitler decided that he didn't need them and he would rather expand his northern territory. So the consequences of this act was that Hitler lost a powerful ally, which he probably could use their manpower later on in the war. He gained no resources in the process. In fact, he lost quite a few trudging across the harsh northern countryside, and he lost a large number of soldiers to the Russian soldiers and the land's harsh winters. So what Hitler could have done with his army instead of attacking Russia was that he could have allowed Russia to remain a powerful ally and protect his northern border. He could have Russia could have helped him conquer the Middle East and Asia easier, and it would have eliminated a battlefront, which is pretty necessary, especially considering how many battlefronts the Nazis were currently fighting on. So the second act of arrogance was his decision to start the Battle of Britain, which was a series of air raids which were meant to weaken the country and make it easier to invade. Now the consequences of this act was that while a lot of damage was dealt to England, he spent an enormous amount of resources on the operation, which lasted a pretty long while. And despite all this dedication that he put towards the effort, no resources or land were gained because they actually didn't invade the land. It also allowed England to continue on with the war because they were not conquered in the Battle of Britain. So what he could have done with his forces was that he could have used his large number of submarines and German aircraft to form a blockade around England so that it would pretty much cut them off from the rest of the world, and he would be free to pretty much further conquer Europe, or at least instill his authority there better. And he could have invaded England at a better time, or when he actually had the resources to do so. So his third act of arrogance was his invasion of Africa, which was pretty much just an attempt to expand his territories southwards and take over a brand new continent. So the consequences of this act was that he actually had to assign one of his best generals, General Rommel, to the African war front, which was a huge loss because Rommel was an absolutely brilliant strategist during the war. And he also had to dedicate a whole new army to conquering the area, which, in my opinion, really wasn't worth it. I mean, there really weren't that many resources in the land. But what he could have done with his with those forces was that he could have used them to better defend Italy, which actually stood as his southern defense. And when Italy fell, it allowed the Allied forces to reconquer Europe much easier. But his fourth act of arrogance was that he supported Japan after they attacked the U.S. Now, this attack on Pearl Harbor was the first act of aggression towards the U.S. and actually brought them into World War II. So it's actually a pretty big deal. And the consequence of his act was that he gained the U.S. as an enemy since he was allied to the Japanese, and the U.S. coming into the war actually reinvigorated the Allied war effort, which allowed them to win overall. What he could have done with his forces was that he could have not condoned Japan's attack and maybe held off fighting the U.S. for a bit longer and focused on, conquering other lands instead. Um, by siding with Japan, he kind of awakened a sleeping giant. So his fifth act of aggression was his initiation of martial law and construction of Holocaust camps, which were implemented in any conquered regions that he was able to conquer or control. Um, the consequences of the act was that he had to utilize soldiers to maintain a strict martial law in all conquered areas and also to maintain the camps, um, which pretty much created a whole new war front for him, which was fought at home, which was a big deal. It also added a moral reason to stopping the Nazis, since now they were seen as butchers of the innocent and all that. But what he could have done with those forces, he could have used them elsewhere in the war and used them to strengthen up his army. But if he also hadn't have done this, then his image probably wouldn't be ruined, and he was kind of seen as the evil guy, and he still is, and he's kind of known for being a butcher of people. Maybe if he didn't do that, he would have had a different image in history and maybe more support from the common people. But so this is actually what happened to the great Nazi Empire, and as you can see, it's kind of being invaded from all different directions, and kind of as a result of Hitler's arrogance. And it obviously cost him dearly, and yeah. But it's his arrogance is definitely one trait we should all be thankful for, because if not, then the U.S. might look a lot like, well, what this picture depicts here, with them controlling the U.S. But thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed my Assignment 4 presentation. I'm not going to pronounce the title because I don't want to embarrass myself, but the rest of the slides are pretty much just reference photos for the pictures I used. So I really hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the class. Thank you very much.